Okay, today I'm going to go over some information that I actually took from another couple of videos by Colby Wright. He's a professor, I believe a professor of finance. I forget what school he's at. But here's a couple of links to the YouTube videos where I got some of this information from. And he did it in 2 videos and about 40 minutes. And I'm going to see if I can do it all together in one video. And also I'm going to show you how to download stocks in bulk from another website. Okay, so what we're planning on doing, we're going to make a variance-covariance matrix, we're going to make a correlation matrix, and then we're going to optimize a portfolio on Excel. And we're going to explore how optimizing a portfolio, or how having a diverse portfolio can maximize your return to risk ratio. Okay, so let's just get into this video right away. I don't want to waste too much time. So the first thing we want to do, we want to go ahead and get some stocks. So I'm going to go out to the internet, and I'm going to search for investexcel.net, and then a space, and I'm going to go bulk stock quote downloader. All right, and it's going to be this first one here, investexcel.net. And you got to be careful when you get into this. There's a lot of fake download places. You got to scroll down and skip all those. You want to scroll down until you see, we want to download it from Yahoo Finance. You want to look for this link and click on this link, and it's going to open up the zip file. And you have to enable content because this has macros in it. And we'll just for sake of brevity, we're going to download these tickers. I'll just let it go ahead and do it. But let's go ahead and do it weekly. So I'm going to change this to a W. And then instead of going back weekly for 1 year, I'm going to take 365 times 3. We'll go back 3 years. And so now it's from 7. I'm obviously recording this on the 28th of February 2020. I'm going back 3 years. These will be a little bit different. So we're going to go weekly, 3 years. That'll be roughly 150 something observations. And then I'm just going to go press this button. I'm going to go get bulk quotes. This is the gentleman, by the way, that wrote this program, and it's a really handy program. I actually used it to download the entirety of the S&P 500, and it did it. Okay, so it said it failed for some tickers, so I'm going to try it again. Okay, see how sometimes you got to do it twice. See, that time it didn't fail. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and go to adjusted close, because those are the ones I want, and I'm just gonna highlight all these. So one thing you could do, I can actually do this way. I'm gonna do it a different way. I'm gonna go here to adjusted close price. I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna go move copy. I'm gonna create a copy. And I want to create it into book 1 where I'm working, and we'll go move to the end. And I'll go OK. And I'm just going to go on this sheet. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. We don't need it. All right, so now we have all the prices. I see this format's a little different. Let me go here. I'll go Format Painter. So these are the prices, and now we want the return. So I'm going to take so I'm going to do the returns. This is it's going from newest to oldest, right? So I want to know the return. I want to know the return that I get going from here to here. So I could go over here, and I could go, I'm just going to do the basic return. I'm going to go equals this divided by this minus 1. And it says a negative return, and let's go ahead and change it to percent, take it out a couple. So the weekly return is a negative 6.898%. And you can see that Walmart did go down that much. Okay, so it went backwards from 17th to the 24th. The price went down, so it should be a negative return. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this across. Of course, I don't need to go that far because I'm only going to 1, 2, 3. How many stocks do we have here? 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 securities. So we only want to do 10. And then if I double click, it'll send it down. The only thing is we want to scroll down to the bottom here, and we're not going to be able to get this last one because if you click on it, it's looking for a return we don't have. So to have a return, you need 2 days. So we can't have this. We can't have this data right here. So I'm going to highlight it and just clear the contents. And we can go ahead and count these. So I'll go equals count, and then I'll highlight up. A quick way to highlight to the top and not have to drag, I can hold down the Shift key, S-H-I-F-T, hold it down, and then tap the End key once, E-N-D, and then tap the up arrow once. And you'll see that it got all the way. I just hit Enter. So and then I don't want that percent, I want that a number, so I'm going to click on this. There's 156 observations, and in each one of these. Okay, so it's roughly 3 years, right? Three years of weeks. Let's go ahead and copy. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make these so we don't get these mixed up. So I'm going to highlight these one color. Maybe we'll highlight them yellow. And I'll highlight, and then I'll take this over here, I'll copy it again. Paste it here. And let's highlight these. I guess I should I highlighted way down. I probably highlighted everything. Let me go Control Z. I don't like highlighting everything. Let me copy this. Paste it here. Let's just highlight just the numbers, yellow. Okay, and then we'll copy this again. Open it on Walmart twice. Copy. Paste. Now these are the returns, so let's highlight these, Shift and down. Let's just highlight these a different color. I'll highlight them like a very light blue. And so we want to know, we know the count. Let's go ahead, we'll calculate the average. So I'm gonna, instead of average, I'm gonna use the abbreviation from statistics, mu. Okay, so we'll say, let's just let's go ahead and insert the formula. I'm going to go to symbol, and I'll say mu. And so mu is just simply the average. So I'm going to go equals average, and I'm going to just get these, don't get the 156, right? And we don't want Walmart. So the average is going to be 0.373. And we can do that across. And then we're going to go calculate a standard deviation. So I'm going to go ahead and do the symbol again. Standard deviation. And the standard deviation, I'm going to use a population standard deviation because it won't work correctly unless I do that. So go equals standard deviation population. Again, we're going to do the same number, Shift and up, and hit the down arrow once. We don't want the Walmart. And that's also percent. So we can go back to home, percent, take it out a couple places. And if we wanted to, we could do the variance too. The variance is basically equal to this squared, right? And the variance, we'll leave it as decimal because it's percent squared as the units. Okay, so now we've summarized our returns over these 3 years, these weekly returns. And now I want to do something called excess returns. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to 1, and I'm going to go Insert. And we'll call this Prices. And let me go ahead and do Merge and Center. And we call this Returns. Merge and Center. Maybe we should call it Weekly Returns. And then we're going to do another one. So I'm going to copy this over. And we're going to do this one. We're going to call it Excess. And I'm going to call it X. All right, that's what we're going to call it. Now let me highlight this. And we'll merge and center that. All right, so to do excess returns, it's going to be equal to, you know what I mean, is in excess of the mean return. So it's going to be equal to this minus this mean return down here. Now the problem is we want to copy it down, but we want it to stay on that bottom row when I copy it down. So I'm going to hit F4. I hit it again. So I always want it to stay on 161, but I want it to be able to copy over to the next one, to the next one. So you just put the $sign in front of the number, and then if I copy this across, you'll see that here it does it with that one, and it does M61. Here it did L61. So it's basically sticking to making sure we stay. You're subtracting this from everything, right? From the second row, I'm subtracting that. The third row, I'm subtracting that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight across and double click to send it down. And we don't want any of these stuff. We just wanted it down to the data, so I'm going to clear contents. So let's go ahead and highlight these. We could check, is it still doing it? Yep, that's correct. It's there after. Whoop. I think I have that. I'm subtracting the standard deviation, aren't I? We want to subtract the mean return. I'm going to try that one more time. Goes to mean, and then we have to copy it across, send it down, and let's double check again. Yeah, subtracting the mean. Okay. Yeah, okay. So now that's correct. So let's highlight this and do it a different color. And then maybe let's do that light gray. Okay, so now we have, so let's kind of reiterate. We got our prices by using that bulk stock downloader, multiple stock downloader, right? And you can put any tickers you want in here, as many as you want, and it'll do. And they always want to use adjusted close. And then you go ahead and you do your weekly returns. I spelled weekly wrong, didn't I? Weekly returns, and then you do your excess returns. And I'm going to highlight these excess returns, and I'm going to use this later in an equation. So here's a little trick. To tell Excel always to go to that, I'm going to call that X. Oh, let me hit escape. Try it again. Highlight all of that, not just the numbers is all we want. And you're going to go over here, and you're just going to type capital X, and then enter. Now I could be anywhere, and if I go here, I go to X, it's automatically going to highlight those. So another thing we're going to want later, we're going to want these standard deviations. Okay. Then we're going to want these mean returns. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go mean return. And I'm going to highlight here. And I'm going to go standard deviation return. So now I have those ranges memorized, so Excel knows where they're at. Okay? Because we're going to use those later. All right, so remember, you see we have, another thing we could do, we could highlight that, and I'm going to call that small n. All right, so now now when we plug them in the formulas, it'll know what these things are. So the next thing we want to do, we want to make the variance-covariance matrix. Let me drag this over here. Let me drag this sheet over. I'll call it var-covar. And in order to do the variance-covariance matrix, let me go ahead and just highlight this and put it over there, copy. I'll just paste it up here. We need to have, and then I'm going to go get the names of these, I'm going to go get these tickers. So I'll highlight these. I'm going to right click, I'm going to go copy. And I'm going to start right here. I'll just put it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go right here. I'm going to right click, I'm going to go paste. Then we go here, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go paste transpose. So the variance-covariance matrix is going to go right into here. And you can see how to do it. I'm going to try to do it all in one thing. So the variance-covariance matrix is called this little summation symbol. And so I'm going to go equals M multiply, matrix multiply, and this means the transpose, that little t, so I'm going to go transpose. I'm going to use X because I named it X. Remember when I highlighted that back there, I called it X. I'm going to take that times X, and then in front of that I want to go 1 divided by n times, and then I'm going to go Control Shift Enter, and that gives me what's called a variance-covariance matrix. So we could check because these should be variances along the diagonal. So this is 0.0074. If we did it right, it should say 0.00724. Okay, so 0.00347. Yeah, that looks correct, right? 0.00715. See how the diagonals are the same. So these diagonals should be the same as what we calculated right here for the variances. Like I say, on the diagonals the variances, and then and then over here and along here, like right here would be the covariance between Walmart and Microsoft. Okay, so that's all I did, is I just used matrix multiplication. Now remember, you got to highlight where your answer is, and then you're going to have to type this in, and then you have to hit Control Shift Enter. Don't forget to hit Control Shift Enter, very important, because I did a matrix formula. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to I'll go ahead and I want to construct a correlation matrix. And I guess what I should do, I'm going to go, this really should be transpose. So it should be like that, right? So I'm going to do the correlation matrix, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight this so we can do that right below. Copy and paste. And let's go ahead and copy all of this. And I'll paste it here. But now I want to do something different here. So I want to say this is equals to the sigma. I'm going to go parentheses, or divided by parentheses, and then we're going to go M multiply. I'll see if this works. Sometimes this doesn't work when I start to do things real fancy like this. And I'm going to go standard deviation returns. And I want to transpose those. See, it's got the little transpose. So I'm going to go to the front. I'm going to go to transpose. And then I'm going to go standard deviation return. And close the parentheses again. And then go Control Shift Enter. And so that did work, right? Because a correlation matrix, it correlates by itself with ones, and that's what we have here. So now we've done the correlation matrix. So you can see, you know, we kind of, this is a check. Those should be the same, and these should be ones if we did everything correctly. Okay. All right. So now we've done the correlation matrix, and we've done the variance-covariance matrix. So now let's just go ahead and start constructing a portfolio. So let me drag this over here, and we'll go portfolio. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go, let me do this. I'm going to insert. We'll put the average, and then we'll do the And then we'll do the standard deviation. And then we'll do the average divided by the standard deviation. This is a summary. And let's go ahead and go back here, and we'll go ahead and get the the securities we're using by default. So I'm going to go copy, and I'm going to go ahead and paste this as transposed because I want it up and down. And we know this. I could just use matrix notation here. I can highlight this and I can say equals transpose, and we know that I want to transpose it because we know that over here, and this will call this mean return, because we know it's horizontal, so I need to transpose it. So I'm going to go Control Shift Enter, and let's go ahead and make those percent, take them out a couple places, and then here we want the standard deviation, so I'll go equals transpose, and we'll go standard deviation return, Control Shift Enter. That's also percent. And then we want to divide I have that backwards. Should be, sorry. It's the mean divided by the standard deviation. It's a problem sometimes when you get in a hurry, you make little mistakes. Sorry about that. I hope you didn't quit watching the video because I did that. So now we're going to go equals this divided by this. So this is a Sharpe ratio. It's not the exact Sharpe ratio. It's not percent. The Sharpe ratio is not percent. I want to hit this little comma to make it into a number. The Sharpe ratio, normally you subtract the risk-free rate, but this is close enough. And so that's our Sharpe ratios for each of those securities. So now let's go ahead and start forming some portfolios. So I'm gonna have a constraining variable. By the way, I'm really copying Colby Wright here on some of the stuff. And the value of the constraint. This makes sense in a second. I know I'm going kind of. And then we're gonna go ahead and copy these again. Let's go ahead and put them right here. And we're going to do the weights. So how many of these we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 10 of them. So I'm going to say 10% on each one of these. We're going to do an equally weighted first. We're going to do 10% of our money is going to go into each portfolio. So if I had $1,000, I put $100 in each one of these stocks. And we're not going to have a, and this is sort of called this equal weight. And so there's no constraining variable, and this is not applicable here. So now we want to calculate some things. First we can do a check. So we'll say total, and I'm going to go auto sum here. Yeah, it's 100%. So and then we'll do we also want to calculate the mean return of the portfolio. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'll copy both of these. Let me just put them right here. So this is very important. So we want to know the standard deviation of the portfolio and the expected return of the portfolio. So the expected return of the portfolio is going to be equal to the weights transpose. So I'm going to go in, multiply, transpose, and then we're going to use the weights, which are these right here. And I'm going to take that times my average returns. Okay, close the parentheses, Control Shift Enter. And so if I did 10% in each one of these, I'd expect to do expect to get that. So now we're going to do the portfolio, the risk of the portfolio, the equally weighted portfolio, and that's going to be equal to M multiply. Yeah, okay, sorry, I stopped for a second. I added this in here. Before I start this formula, it has the variance-covariance matrix. And let's go ahead, I'm going to go here. And I highlighted this. And I called it var-covar. That way I can put it into the formula. So let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to go equals M multiply. And the first thing is we want to transpose the weights. So I'm going to go transpose. And the weights are right here above. And I want to multiply that times the var-covar. That's what I highlighted it back there. What I highlighted, and I want to close that. So now I've done everything to here, and now I have to multiply that times the weight again. So I'm going to go to the front. I'm going to go M multiply, parentheses, go to the back, take it times the weights again. Okay. And then finally you have to take the square root of everything. So I'm going to go SQRT and go to the and close the parentheses. Don't forget to hit Control-Shift-Enter. And we'll do that also. I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to make that percent. Take it out several places. And the Sharpe ratio is just going to be your mean expected portfolio mean return, weekly mean return divided by the risk or the standard deviation. Now that's going to be a number, so I'm going to hit this little comma. Okay, so I want to copy these over because I'm going to start doing some other things. So before I copy this over, I got to make sure all of these are going to be correct. And so that should work. I'm going to have to Control-Shift-Enter to get out of that. And then this, I already made this, so this was these means always stay there when I copied this to the right. So I put $signs in front. Hit escape. Oh. Control-Shift-Enter. Let me get out of that. Okay, what did I do? Transpose. Oh, an extra parenthesis. Oh, I think we have M multiply. I don't know what I did. Control-Shift-Enter. Okay. And that's what all these are. M multiply. All right. So I was messing around this while I had the video paused. So let me get this reset. All right. So what we want to do next, we could say, well, I noticed that my standard deviation, the lowest risk I have here is FTSE. So I want to see if I can form a portfolio by changing these weights, but not have the risk any higher than my lowest risk. So I want to maximize my return. I want to maximize this, but see if I can change these weights to get a higher return and then also lower my standard deviation to at least that. So the way I could do that, so let me highlight all these across. Right now they all should be the same, right? But now we're going to mess with it. So I'm going to go into Solver. So I go to Data and Solver. And I'm going to reset everything. Let me go reset all. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to take this expected return right here and I want to maximize it by changing my weights. And I have to add some constraints. So I'm going to say they have to sum up to 1. Right? And I'm going to add another constraint. I'm going to say this standard deviation has to be less than or equal to what my lowest one is out of my individual securities. And if I go OK, oh, I forgot to click on it. It has to be lower than that. This needs to be that. So this has to be less than or equal to my lowest risk out of here, which would be that. Hopefully that makes sense. Then I go OK. And I'm going to unclick this. And we'll go solve. Okay. So I ended up with 1.65, which is basically what that is. If it rounds off, if I take it out a couple places, it's going to be the same. All right. But my return went up. It went up to 0.410. So what did I do? Here's what I invested in everything. Now these negative numbers mean I shorted some stocks. So I actually borrowed money and invested more in the other positive stocks. So that's called short selling, right? So you may not be able to short sell. So how we handle if we're not going to short sell? I would go back to data, solver, and I'd add another constraint. I would say that all of these have to be or at least greater than equal to 0. And go OK. If I solve it again, so if I don't short sell, this is how I would invest. So there'd be some security that I wouldn't invest anything in. But I would still, this is very cool because I would get a higher return than my equally weighted, and actually my return would be higher than most of these other returns with a risk at the level of the lowest risk. And then in order to get this lower risk, I actually had a negative return. So I'm getting a positive return. So that's the benefits of a diversification. I'm able to do that, right? So let's try another one. So let's try, so now I want to minimize the risk and keep the return at what my maximum return is. So my maximum return was Microsoft, but the risk is quite high. So is there any way I can get that return and then lower the risk? So I'm going to go to solver, and I'm going to minimize. Let me reset everything. It's better. I'm just going to go ahead and reset all. So I want to minimize my risk, which should be right here, by changing these cells right here. And I want to add some constraint. I want to say the expected return should be equal to my highest return that I had out of my individual stocks. I don't need to go equal. It should be equal to my highest return, which is right here. Okay? And no, it doesn't equal, I guess. That's fine. And then I'm going to go OK. And also I want to make sure they equal 1 again, so I add another constraint. So I'm going to say that this adds, they have to add up to 1. And then I'm going to take this off, and we'll let it short sell, so I'll go solve. So now my standard deviation went down quite a bit, right? Because with Microsoft, it was 2.673. I got it down to 2.04. But I had to short sell, didn't I? So let's try it without short selling. And we'll add another constraint. We'll say all of these have to be greater than or equal to 0. And go OK. Solve that. So that's pretty interesting. It does. That's not kind of a trivial solution. It just says, well, use Microsoft then. So it's the same answer. That's what Microsoft has, right? So we weren't able to minimize it anymore without short selling. And so for the last one, I want to try and maximize the Sharpe ratio. So I'm going to let these do whatever they want to do and maximize the Sharpe ratio. So I'm going to go here to solver, reset all. And I want to maximize my Sharpe ratio by changing these weights. Again, we want to add a constraint. We want to say this is equal to 1. Okay. And we just let it go. And here I don't even have to do a non-negativity. Well, maybe I need, let me go check that again. Solver. Let's take this off and let it. Okay, there it did some crazy stuff. It did a lot of short selling, didn't it? So now we'll take the short selling off. I think if you click this, it does the same thing, but I like to do it this way just to make sure. I want to say make sure all of these are greater than or equal to 0. Okay. So that basically says to invest in these two things, and it maximizes my Sharpe's ratio. I get this much risk and this much return. So anyway, that just kind of shows you how portfolio optimization works. The power of Excel. We were able to do quite a bit here, didn't we? We did a lot of different stuff in this video, and we did it in like 35 minutes. So hopefully that was interesting, and hopefully, now if you don't understand why I did some of these things, Colby Wrightbecker, he takes a little bit more time to explain some of these. He might do them a little bit different than me, but we kind of get the same answer. So you may want to go, if you really thought this was interesting, you may go watch his videos too and see what you think. So if you like this video, make sure you like, hit my picture if you want to subscribe, and thanks for watching. Hopefully it was interesting to you. Bye.